Beneath the marble majesty of ancient Rome, behind the glory of its conquests, the brilliance of its poets, and the proud echo of the Senate, there thrived a silent trade so cruel, so calculated, it was almost invisible. These were not slaves who tilled the land or marched into battle. These were boys, groomed, refined, and sometimes mutilated, destined for the pleasure and service of Rome's elite. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you will question everything you thought made Rome great. In the shadowed corners of Rome's grandeur, the slave markets bustled with life, or, more accurately, with lives for sale. Especially near the Tiber River, public auctions paraded humans like livestock. Among them stood delicate boys, Greek, Syrian, Phrygian, chosen not for strength, but for their beauty, charm, and mannered grace. They were called Delicatus. To the Roman elite, a Delicatus was an ornament, a soft-spoken, well-groomed boy kept in the household to serve, entertain, and impress. Like fine furniture or golden goblets, they were a mark of status, a possession to show off. In the words of Roman satirist Juvenal, a curly-haired boy now costs more than a farm. But this wasn't mere indulgence. It was a structured, thriving part of Rome's luxury economy. Some boys were taken as spoils of war. Others were sold by desperate families in the provinces. Once bought, their lives changed instantly. Under constant surveillance, they were trained in everything from personal grooming and etiquette to music, dance, and recitation. They served at banquets, poured wine for generals, and stood silently in marble halls while senators debated the fate of empires. But for some, the fate was darker still. The most beautiful and refined of them were sent to the imperial palace on Palatine Hill. There, surrounded by power and poison, luxury and manipulation, the boys became property of the emperor himself. And for the emperor, ownership was not enough. He demanded complete control. Enter the Sperones, castrated boys, eunuchs, physically altered to maintain the very qualities that made them desirable. Their voices never broke, their bodies never matured, their loyalty, in the eyes of their masters, was permanent. Castration in Rome was technically illegal under the Lex Cornelia, but for the elite, laws were suggestions, not restrictions. Medical texts avoided the gruesome details, but later sources describe brutal methods carried out in secrecy, often with horrific complications and death. Still, the practice endured. Why? Because the empire's obsession with image, hierarchy, and control made the Spidon ideal, refined, obedient, incapable of challenging the bloodlines of their masters, and crucially, their very presence displayed the wealth, power, and decadence of those who owned them. No story illustrates this better than that of Sporus. Sporus was a young boy, enslaved, and reportedly castrated by order of Emperor Nero himself. The reason? Nero wanted a companion who resembled his late wife, Sabina. So he dressed Sporus in women's clothing, gave him Sabina's name, and married him in a public ceremony. This wasn't love, this was theater, a grotesque performance of control. Sporus sat beside Nero in public. He attended banquets, shared a bed, and followed the emperor across provinces. Historians don't remember his words, only his role. A puppet dressed in silk, a boy stripped of self. And he wasn't alone. Other delicati filled the imperial halls. Roman poets like Martial and Catullus hinted at them in their verses, sometimes mocking, sometimes admiring. Trained in poetry and music, they were human decor at feasts and baths, adored by guests, praised for their elegance, but always voiceless. Their lives were marked by a strange paradox. They were seen everywhere, yet remembered by no one. The closer these boys stood to power, the greater their danger. The imperial court was not a safe haven. It was a place of whispers, shifting loyalties, and quiet brutality. A slave who fell out of favor might be beaten, banished, or worse. Under Emperor Tiberius, his villa on Capri became infamous for its dark rumors: boys thrown into the sea, orgiastic rituals, cruelty disguised as celebration. While some reports may carry bias, their consistency is chilling. Even those who served flawlessly could be discarded at a whim. No protection, no voice, no legacy. These boys were living symbols of Rome's contradictions, an empire that preached virtue while practicing vice, that idolized refinement while trafficking in suffering. To walk through the marble corridors of the Roman Empire was to see beauty hiding rot. The lives of enslaved boys, delicati, spedones, eunuchs, remind us that even the most celebrated civilizations can be built on unspeakable cruelty. They stood beside emperors, slept on golden couches, wore silk tunics, but they had no names in history, no freedom, no future of their own. Their very silence was part of the performance. Their pain, concealed beneath luxury, reinforced the power of those who ruled them. And so we must ask, what do we really celebrate when we marvel at Rome's greatness? Behind the sculptures and stories, who were the ones forced to remain invisible? Even today, the legacy of domination, of elegance disguising exploitation, echoes through time. It challenges us to reconsider how we measure civilization, how we define power, and who pays the price for empire. As Juvenal once asked, "Quis custodis ipsus custodes?" Who watches the watchers? Now I ask you, how would Rome's legacy change if we listened to those it silenced? Comment your thoughts below. And don't miss the next episode, where we uncover the forgotten cults of ancient blood rituals, their ceremonies, their secrets, and the chilling echoes they left behind.